So knowing that I have 19 minutes and 30 seconds, I'll jump right in. So starting with a quick story. When I was in my early years of law, which is weird to say your early years, I don't feel like that. I don't think I look that way, but I may. I was walking through the hallway of a mid-sized, large corporate law firm, and I was walking with a older white attorney. And as we were walking, somehow the conversation was centered around me. I can't tell you how or why. It was my first or second year of law. That probably was why. We were headed to prepare for a business tax deal, and I can promise you that I am not a tax attorney, a tax accountant, a tax anything. And I can give you a very quick example. I have a couple seconds. In law school, I thought I was going to be cool and work with my friends and do a tax clinic to help people who didn't have the ability to go and get their taxes done. Well, I went to the assessment. You had to do an assessment. You did a mock. They gave you someone. So I had a person who worked, and they made less than $20 an hour. This was like 15 years ago, if you wanted to know my age. And in that clinic, by the time we got to the end of it, I had miraculously gotten a return of over $100,000 for that person. So I can promise you, unless, thank you. So unless you desire that return right now and want to go with me to federal prison somewhere, do not expect me to do any type of tax anything. So why I was involved in this, I cannot tell you, but here we are. So very quickly, I digress, very quickly, we got to his office. And I remember it, the sun was hitting very similar to this, and it was a window, a wall of windows. And before we got started on anything, he turned to me. I was on a couch, and it was nearest that window. We were 18 stories high, and he said to me, "You're an enigma." I'm from South 22nd Street, anybody who lives here. Livingston and South 22nd. Not a lot of black boys hear that phrase. I don't walk down the street and have my dogs or my boys or dodge in any type of incident for someone to say you're an enigma. So of course I didn't know what it meant. So I didn't care how long I had been in law school. I had never heard that word. So I said, well, what does that mean? Naturally, because I don't know how to not ask. And so probably looked like a fool, but it didn't matter because I don't know what that looks like either. That's why I'm standing up here. And so he told me, but then of course I did my own. I went back and I looked. And I'll tell you what word I got caught up on, the word mystery. But that's because I thought it was so sexy. Right? So here I am in law thinking like, oh, I'm sexy. But as I prepared for this moment, what I realized that it wasn't necessarily about the mystery. There's another part of the definition. And it's this portion that's about inexplicability, the inability to explain something. And as I pondered for this time to share with you, there's a part of me that feels that actually what he was struggling with was how I was living multiple lives in that one moment. So they asked me to talk about parallel. I don't even know what that means technically for me to talk about parallel. But someone put in the email, because I do art, or I think music, and because I do law. And before we get started, I want to pose this one question that I want you to keep with you. Are you free? Not do you feel free? Not is there freedom? Not what does freedom mean? Are you free? Hold that for 1 second. So I believe in language, and I believe in the time that we're in, language is even more important. In order for us to have any type of exchange, in order for us to work together as allies, colleagues, friends, family, whatever you want to be, community, we have to understand what it is that we're saying to each other. We have to understand how to communicate and express to one another for whatever mission we're on to be completed. So the definitions are here. I won't read them to you, unless maybe you can't see, I just seen a face. So I'll read it and I won't say who gave me a face. So essentially it means, one, extending in the same direction, everything, and this is my favorite word, equidistant, and not meeting. And there's a second definition, to happen at the same time as something else, or be similar or equal to something. So that's what I'm speaking to today. And we'll go just a little bit deeper shortly, with 14 minutes remaining. So I asked myself, why did I get this particular call? What is actually going on? And I just went back to the email about 10 times, Lauren. You have no idea how many times I went back to this email because I'm still trying to figure out why I'm here. But I always do that to myself. And what I realized, it was very clear that they were asking me here because I do two things that they know of. I do art and I do law. I am an artist, I am a lawyer. I've existed in the space of art, I've existed in the space of law, however you want to look at it. But then there's more. Art, law, education, professorship, strategy. But then there's things that people have no idea. Existing in a state of spirit and energy and universe while also being in corporate function, traditional settings, all at the same time. And then there's things that people don't even recognize or refuse to recognize. Being Black. Whether I subscribe to that notion, that's a whole different story. But being Black in a system that says you're Black, being particularly born with a particular complexion that says in this system you are this, while also living American. Now, what I found most fascinating about this, in this entire introspection, I want to thank Creative Mornings for having me, and I also want to thank them for forcing me into the busiest time of my life that I've ever had to somehow have to do my own internal therapy work and reconcile with everything that I think I am and am not. I realized that it's not actually so extravagant to live parallel. The reality is that we are all actually doing it. The difference is some of us live a little louder. So I want to take a second, and I never do this. I want to take about 30 seconds as we count down. I want you to pull out your phone, pull out a piece of paper, anything that you want, and I want you to write down, just for a moment, what parallel living are you engaged in? I don't want you to write down anything incriminating if someone's going to see it, but just a moment, and we'll go with it. And if you don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine. Just look down so I feel important. So this parallel living, and please keep going if it is doing something for you. This parallel, these lines that I keep speaking of, it is essentially that, is experiencing at the same time in one space, at one time. Not in this room, but in your lifespan. Now, I know there's a theory of parallel living where you actually live multiple lives or multiple timelines simultaneously, multidimensionally. I'm not speaking to that because I'm not smart enough for that, but I promise you somebody else is, and you can find that theory. This theory is very simple. It is being in this very room right now, being all of that you are in this moment. I want to talk about the concept of freedom and bondage for a moment in the space of parallel living. Just something that came to me, nothing that you're going to find on the internet. And if you do, I lied. So, freedom, it's really simple. It is the uninhibited ability to choose the experience, to choose the way you show up, how you show up, and when you show up. When you're in this particular condition, and I'm speaking of myself, not for you, when you're in this particular condition, you actually live very comprehensively, and there is a beauty that is manifested. Doesn't mean people find it beautiful, but within oneself, there is a beauty that has been created and established. You're no longer split-minded. I don't have to think at this moment, I'm Black, and what do you think about me being Black? I don't think that I'm a man, what do you think about me being a man? I don't think that I have on heels, and what do you think about me having on heels? It's just my style, it's my thing, right? Then there's bondage. It's a space where you do, not where you experience. Where society or a system, some external factor has told you that this is how you are to be in this moment. This is what you are to be in this moment. And this is how you'll be and when you will be. And when you're in this particular condition, there is no beauty. There's just production. Typically producing for another, constantly. Whether it's money, whether it's accolades, whether it's pleasure, whatever the case is, it is a moment of production. So when we talk about this concept of parallel living, you can be in either state. And I'm not saying either is right, wrong, good, or bad. It's just a recognition of where you actually are. And so as I contemplated with my 9 minutes remaining, as I went into that self-reflective state, that shadow work that people speak of, 5 questions came to me. I did not make these questions. The first question, and it may be applicable to you or not, is what is it that I actually do? Circling all the way back to that definition, I do 2 things. I live multiple lines simultaneously, when I want, how I want. And I'm not saying it because I'm so brave. I'm saying because I don't know any other way. I also do the second definition. I choose which lines show up at what time. I manifest those lines. Sometimes I'm only in the space of law. I can only afford at that moment to channel so much energy to defend, to articulate on behalf of another. Sometimes they converge. And sometimes they weave, unable to be separated. In this moment, all of my lines are weaving. Not one thing, but so many things. But what is more important is what it takes to be in that space. And there were 2 things that kept coming: choice and appreciation. In order for me to do this, in order for me to be this, choice and appreciation. Not falling into this conundrum of I had to or I must. It's a default. It's a crutch. As I was sharing with a friend, I won't say who they were, but that I must syndrome is the same thing that will allow you to watch someone get beaten on the street because you had to watch, because you couldn't say anything because it may happen to you. You're always choosing whether you decide to call it that or not. But then there's this appreciation, the appreciation for the moment, the appreciation that everyone won't see me as some glorious figure or some glorious being, and they don't have to validate me. And appreciating that there are times where people will feel the exact opposite: uncomfortable, upset, a sense of rebellion, a pushback. And then there's this one thing, and Brandy pulled this out of me. She just kept bothering me, wherever she is. There's an appreciation for an old spiritual concept of in and of. There's an appreciation that I can be in this room right now, but I don't have to be of this room or community. There's appreciation that I can be in the corporate space, but I don't have to be the corporate space. There's an appreciation that I can be in any community at any time that I want to be, but I don't have to be of it. And in that, I am choosing which lines show up and when. And whether I say something in that moment about something that someone thinks that I should have shouted against, or if I should have led a cause in the moment, that's my choice. At all times. Really quickly, with 5 minutes remaining, what got me to this parallel space, to this parallel living? 4 things: my mother, my father, this concept of spirit, and this flow state. My mother, who is here, who you all have heard vocalize multiple times. She sung to me over and over again, "Do not be boxed." My magic dust never had the chance to settle because my mother was constantly whipping it, whirling it. I never got the opportunity to feel what it felt to sit and to be one. Watching her live naturally without even realizing it until I aged, with who she connected with, in spaces she traversed, being contrary in traditional spaces and not realizing how that impacted her. My father, who's no longer with us, a man of the hood. I knew to call him when I needed somebody to get beat down, and I'm not lying. I didn't say much. I knew not to talk. Mama, she was going to talk to you. I didn't need no talk. I needed hands. So my father was very, very clear to me. Very, very clear to me. You don't compete with anybody but yourself. Every space I walk into, I'm not trying to be bigger or better than you. I'm being bigger and better for me, of me, in me, by me. Watching him live naturally, from drugs to jail to church to ministry to helping people in their own addiction path, and not ever sensing one time that he regretted any line. Doing them all at the same time. Then this concept of spirit, I have 3 minutes left. That's so out of this space. I'll let Deja, I'll let Monique or somebody else go into that space. Whether you call it energy, universe, atomic space, whatever you want to call it. There was something from before I was born that stayed with me that for some reason, maybe it was my mother's whipping that magic around, whether it's my father making me remain inside of myself that I never actually let it go. Someone said there's a veil. And apparently my veil is either too thin or doesn't exist. Then there's the flow state. There's a wave, there's a current that if you sit still enough, you'll feel. It's actually what pushes you in certain directions. The only difference between me and others is that I go with my current. Always have, where a lot of us resist it. So what has been the pleasure or the power in this space, in parallel living, so to speak? It's this. It's being able to meet with perfect strangers on a Friday morning, even though I got up at 6 o'clock, so my eyes are still burning, mainly because I was scared, and being able to exchange energy. It's the ability to show up comprehensively and know that I've left whatever is of me and in me wherever I have been. It is this authority that people speak of where you're unapologetic. It's because you don't know how to be. This is my man right here. Everywhere with me. Okay. It is this state of never living in regret. Because I don't worry about what if, and I also appreciate what I've done. Where others may see it as a negative, I see it as having happened. Chosen to. What's the drawback? For me, there is this constant dealing with labels. When you decide to live loudly, whether intentionally or not, people will still box you. No matter how many different ways you show up, you are still this. There's a negative, tilted inquisition of me in almost every space I go into. That is fatigue. To resist that constant energy to pull you down, to pull you into the bondage state. And then finally, how do I approach this every day? I never think about it. I have never thought about parallel living in any way. And so I had to let it come. And there are just a few quick things I do. I have 16 seconds. Let's see if I can do this. The first is thankfulness. I literally wake up every single day and I say thank you before my feet hit the floor. No matter how bad the day was before, no matter how bad the day may be, if you consider it bad or good or whatever language you use, no matter how stressful it may be, I do say thank you. The second is literally appreciation of my lines. I walk in a state of gratitude because the lines have manifested for me and I have embraced those lines. It's really hard to work in a partnership if you've never accepted what's there. My lines are my partners are my lines. Then I choose, moment to moment, not when I wake up. Sometimes when I wake up, depending on who you talk to, what line I'm in that moment, at that time. And the line that I'm drawing on right now may not be the line I draw on when I get in my car. It may not be the line that I draw when I speak to you after this particular moment, but I choose every single time. And then there is this intentionality. There is a seriousness for each line that I walk. Jadena says a line, it's not a hobby, so no, I won't record for your homie boy. I can't stand when people ask me to just do random things sometimes. And not this. This isn't random, so I don't want anybody. But as an artist, for my artist friends who are in here, it's like, well, can you do this really quickly? Can you? It's like, well, no, because I mean it. I'm like that with every line. I mean it. So if I'm a lawyer in that moment, no matter how much I want to be or don't want to be a lawyer, I'm a lawyer. If I'm showing up in artistry, then I am an artist. And I am sensitive about, and I told Brayden I was not going to use all of my vernacular in this particular session. But the rest of you who know that particular thing, I'm particular about mine, right? And the final thing is walking in a constant state of release. Releasing to each moment. Letting it be. Control is a terrible drug. And for those of us who continue to overdose on it, it's one of the reasons why we find ourselves in such a place of unhappiness. Because we confuse and convince ourselves that we somehow can manipulate and control everything and everyone around us. Walking in that state of release allows me to choose what, when, and how. Now, why is any of this important? I have no idea. I promise you. But I do imagine, as I pondered this and as I go, because I'm over my time and I heard that Sam was going to get on me, I have pondered, what if all of us were an enigma? What if just one of you today decided I am choosing my lines, and that small choice influenced another, that influenced another, that influenced another? What would happen to the energy that is currently present that is causing regression and suppression and depression? What beauty would be created that would rival the universe itself? I wonder. I imagine. Thank you.